Welcome to the AccuBuild Payroll Year-End presentation. All detailed information covered in this presentation is available with step-by-step instructions included in the AccuBuild Payroll Year-End notes. Emails were sent to AccuBuild clients on December 13th with links to the documentation. If you are viewing this presentation from AccuBuild University, you can access these notes from the www.accubuild.com/support website. In this presentation, we are going to review all of the steps necessary to close the payroll year. There are two additional presentations that go along with this one, each covering the close of the fiscal year and printing tax forms. Also, during this presentation, we'll review the steps for each section at a high level, then go into the software to demonstrate the step-by-step instructions covered. Let's get started with closing the payroll year-end. There are 3 steps involved in closing the payroll year-end. Not all of these may apply to your company. The first, create bonus checks prior to 12/31 of the year-end. Create fringe benefit checks, and then finally closing the payroll module. First, we'll cover creating bonus checks. You'll want to confirm that you have bonus set up as one of the 6 miscellaneous pays in your payroll properties. Ensure that the W-2 box is marked so it is included in the employee's gross wages on their W-2. You do not need to input the GL account, as the GL account on department code will pre-fill on these transactions. In the documentation, there are 2 ways to override the calculation of federal and state withholding taxes. In this presentation, we recommend using the second method of temporarily changing the default pay period in payroll properties. You can select monthly or annual. Be sure to reset the pay period after posting bonus checks. If this is the first time you've created bonus checks, you'll want to set up a department code for each workers' comp code so that your wage reports reflect the correct levels of payments. You can choose to have bonus checks expensed to a single GL account, or they can go to individual accounts based on your workers' comp codes. Once your setup is complete, enter bonus check amounts through the Enter Update Time Cards process. Use transaction codes 51 through 56. In our demonstration shortly, we'll be using code 56. Be sure to select the correct department code for each bonus pay type. Otherwise, the system will revert to the department code on the employee record. Calculate taxes as you normally would. Then print and post your checks. Let's look at these steps in the software. In step 1, we'll confirm the settings in Payroll, Properties, Miscellaneous Pays and Deductions. You can see that in addition to bonus, we also have vacation, sick pay, and reimbursement. Your setup may be different. Click on the General tab and change the payroll period to monthly or annually. Remember that you'll need to come back to this screen to revert your original setting before processing checks in the new year. Next, we'll set up a department code for bonus. You'll navigate to Payroll, Controls, Department Codes. As mentioned, if this is the first time to process bonus checks, set up a department code so the GL account and/or workers' comp codes will provide the correct required reporting. We're going to set up a code for officer bonuses. Click on the Add button and input the department code ID. In this case, we'll use 51. Tab down to the description code for the department And since this is for officer bonuses, we'll include that in the description. Then input the GL account for both labor and burden. Finally, select the correct workers' comp code. Once done with the setup of this department code, click on Save. Once done with the setup of all department codes needed, click Close. Now it's time to create the bonus checks. Go to Payroll, enter Update Time Cards. If you'll be processing checks for all employees, including salaried employees, answer no to the question, would you like to include salaried employees in this payroll? Input the period beginning date and the ending date. Select each employee in the drop-down list, then click on the Time Cards button in the bottom right corner. Select the bonus pay. As mentioned, we will be using 56. Use the down arrow key to select the correct transaction code. Tab down to the amount field and input the amount of the bonus pay. Use the tab field and you can now select the department for use with this bonus pay. Then click Save to save this bonus transaction. If this is a salaried employee that you've chosen, you'll need to remove any of the standard recurring transactions. Highlight and delete all of the excess except the bonus transaction previously entered. You may get a message asking to delete any associated records, and should you continue, click Yes. You'll click Close after inputting the transaction for this employee. You can then select a second employee and perform the same process. Click Close here to finish off all of the employees. The next step is to calculate taxes. Navigate to Payroll, calculate payroll taxes. The window which opens explains that the setting on the Payroll Properties General tab is set for annual or monthly, depending on your choice, and that only non-salaried employees will be calculated this way. If you have salaried employees that you want to calculate taxes on an annual or monthly basis, refer to the year-end payroll documentation for additional steps. You'll find this information on page 3. Lastly, you'll want to print and post your checks as you normally would. Now we'll move on to creating fringe benefit checks. A bit of explanation for those who may not be familiar with fringe benefits. These are taxable wages, but generally are not paid as part of regular payroll runs. Some examples are shown on the screen, with the most common one being personal use of a company vehicle. These types of benefits are paid using a handwritten check and are considered an adjustment to the employee's total wages. Using this method allows the changes to gross wages and taxes, but does not create a payment to the employee. Your first step, if you've not used this type of payment in the past, is to set up a miscellaneous deduction in Payroll, Properties, Miscellaneous Pays and Deductions tab. Then create your handwritten checks. We recommend that you use a unique check number series. You enter the amount as 0 and enter payroll periods, with the suggestion being the last week of the payroll year. You'll input payroll tax deductions based on your CPA recommendations. In the time card entries, you'll be using transcode 70, which is for fringe benefit pay. Then you'll add transcode created in step 1, the auto deduction. After inputting the handwritten check, proceed to post it. In this demonstration, we'll set up a fringe for payment of personal use of a company vehicle. Again, you'll want to talk with your local CPA firm about the tax withholding implications of any fringe benefit as it applies to your company. Like we did for bonus, we'll confirm the settings in Payroll, Properties, Miscellaneous Pays and Deductions. You can see that in addition to auto fringe, we also have other union, insurance, garnish, 401k, and S Corp. Your setup may be different. Note that these accumulator settings for both miscellaneous pays and miscellaneous deductions should not be changed during the payroll year. To process a fringe benefit check, you'll use the handwritten check option in Payroll. Select the employee receiving the check, tab over, and input a check number and the amount. As mentioned previously, you may want to use a unique numbering series for the checks issued for fringe benefits. Select a date, and the amount should be 0. Input the payroll beginning and ending dates. And at this point, you'll want to input your tax withholdings. Again, check with your CPA as to the amounts and which taxes will be withheld from these fringe checks. Next, click on the Time Cards button and select Transcode 70 Fringe Benefit Pay. Then tab down to the amount. And input the dollar amount of the fringe benefit. Click Save. Any additional auto pay amounts that may appear, you'll want to delete from this check, leaving only the fringe pay. Then click Add and select the transcode that represents the corresponding deduction for this benefit. In this case, we're going to choose 61, which is the auto fringe that we showed on the miscellaneous deduction page. When you input this amount, you'll want to input the difference between the amount paid less all of the taxes calculated. In our case, $1,000 minus $1,450. And when we save and close, in this case, you'll notice that we don't balance, we're off by $1. I'll go back into time cards in order to adjust. To do that, I'm going to have to delete the fringe, auto fringe deduction and re-enter it. Click Add. 61 is the auto fringe deduction, and I'll input the correct value this time. And when I close, you'll notice that the net pay equals the net amount of the check. You'll click on Process to post the check through the system. And you'll be able to continue processing fringe checks for other employees. There are some additional instructions in the payroll year-end notes related to W-2 reporting for fringe benefits. Be sure to reference this information if you plan to issue fringe benefit checks. Now we're ready to close the payroll year. Well, almost ready. There are some preparation steps that need to be done first. Once you've created bonus and fringe check and any last-minute paychecks, you'll want to reconcile the payroll tax reports for the year. You'll find this on page 13 of the payroll year-end notes document. After your reconciliation is complete, we recommend making a full backup of your AccuBuild database. Lastly, to prepare for the year-end payroll, install the AccuBuild year-end update. At the time this video was created, the official tax tables were not released. Please watch for future notifications regarding the AccuBuild year-end release updates. After you've completed the preparation steps, you're ready to close payroll. Change the payroll cutoff date in configuration. This is a system administration role only access point. If you don't have access to this menu item, check with your system administrator. This date must be changed to 1/1 of the new year before any payroll checks can be dated in the new year. Next, update the payroll tax rates and limits. The most common change would be the FICA Social Security limit, but your state income tax or state unemployment rates could also change. Lastly, you'll want to review any updates that need to be made to employee records. Examples of these updates include confirming that the reporting for federal taxes and deductions are updated. These are both done on the Employee Federal tab and will affect how the employee's W-2s will be printed. Check with your CPA to confirm which IRS requirements you'll need to use. Also, the employer-paid health insurance. You'll manually input this amount on each employee record. As you begin processing payroll in the new year, you'll want to be mindful of the following items. Before posting any checks created from time cards, verify the year-to-date earnings do not include earnings from the previous year. If by chance you notice you need to make corrections to previous year's earnings for one or more employees, please refer to the payroll year-end document for details on entering adjustments. When you are ready to print W-2s, we highly recommend that you use the integration from AccuBuild to Atrex e-filing solution. This solution provides a simple method of creating the tax forms along with making the adjustments covered in these last three items and submitting them to the IRS. If you are not already using Atrex, you can find more information about this service by clicking the Atrex Partner page menu option under Support in AccuBuild. We hope this webinar has been beneficial in preparing you for your payroll year-end tasks. Please remember, at the time of this video, the official tax tables were not released. Please watch for future notifications regarding the AccuBuild year-end release updates. As mentioned earlier, we will also release 2 additional webinars, one covering the fiscal year-end close and another which will go into more details about printing W-2 and 1099 forms. Thank you for joining us today. Please call our 800 number if you need additional help.